Do you drive, Trish?
Yes, I do drive. I haven't driven for very long. And
You mean you haven't had a license for very long?
Yes, I haven't had a license very long, but I never drove before I had a license.
Yeah. How old were you when you got your license?
Oh, I must have learned to drive when I was about 30.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, you learned in France, or?
I learned in France,
Yeah.
which I suppose is as good a place as any to learn, because the way they teach to drive in France is surprising, to say the least. It's
Why?
It's very well. You have to learn to drive in a driving school, or at least you did when I learned to drive.
Yes.
So you had to have a certain number of hours before you were even allowed to take the test, and they said that you had to have 1 hour for every year you were. So if you were 30, you'd need at least 30 hours to learn to drive.
So if you're only 10, you could get away with 10 hours. Yeah.
The minimum was 20 hours, I think,
really?
of driving before you took the test. And it was a very loose system. I mean, the things that they told you to do while learning to drive were quite, I suppose, by English standards or American standards, quite shocking.
Yeah. Don't you find it's an anomaly that the French... learning to drive and passing the test is so difficult, and yet the French drive so badly?
Well, in fact, some of the things that they taught us to do were part and parcel of what they do on the road now. I mean, the fact that you had to go the same speed as all the other cars. You knew that there was an official speed limit, but my driving instructor told me to keep it up. She said, don't slow down, you'll confuse the others. Yeah. So some of the things were quite shocking, really.
Let me ask you a question, because I learned to drive in England, and then I changed my license to a French one, then back to an English. What is the law concerning drivers' attitudes to pedestrians on pedestrian crossings?
Oh, they are supposed to stop on a pedestrian crossing.
Why do you suppose they don't? Because they're French, I suppose.
Because, well, I think that's going a little too far, really.
Well, why don't they?
Well, I suppose it's a very the way the French drive is quite loose. Should we say loose? I think they learn the code de la route and then they forget it immediately. And I think there's an attitude to driving in France, which is perhaps in other European countries as well. But there's an attitude that once you're on the road, you're in the right.
Yeah, and, certainly in England in the last 15 to 20 years, driving standards or attitudes have changed a lot. They drive much more like the Continentals now. They drive faster. They're more aggressive. They're less respectful of pedestrians. Whereas 20 years ago, I mean, it was wonderful in England. People would always let pedestrians go. There was no aggressivity. But it's gradually becoming more like Europe. But it's still, I mean, pedestrians still have the right of way on those crossings. Nobody would ever. Well, you don't find
not to stop.
No.
Yeah. No. But I mean, with cars getting bigger and faster, I mean, you have to expect people to want to go at higher speeds. And,
yes and no, because they're bigger and faster, but they also have very good brakes. It's very easy to stop quickly. It's very easy to accelerate again. Many cars are automatic. It's very easy to drive. It's just it's a matter of the personality, I think.
Yeah.
Or the
I
personality
sometimes
change
think that cars bring out the worst in people anyway.
Well, yeah, I think so.
You have someone who's quite reasonable, and then you see him behind the wheel, and he's a maniac.
Yeah.
Or completely rude and selfish. I think cars tend to bring out the selfish aspect of a person.
Yeah.
Myself included. I mean, you see yourself doing things and so I shouldn't have done that. I mean, that was...
Yeah. Have you ever had an accident?
No, I haven't. I've never had.
Not even
have you?
A little one? No, I haven't actually. Not a real accident. I just slightly nicked a car once and had a slight dent, but no, I've never had anything at all serious. Fortunately, I've seen a few. Yeah. But that's you've got to be lucky not to have an accident these days. Although, of course, there are so many cars on the roads these days, but it's rather difficult. Maybe to drive too fast in some cases, because you're always behind the car in front with someone behind you. It's almost like being on a train, except that the carriages are not linked together, but one car behind the other in an interminable line.
Yes, it's very difficult to really respect that distance that they tell you to keep between us.